I met this beautiful guy here at a therapeutic riding ranch that one of my clients owns, and I was really called to go out there today. This place is phenomenal. She works with autistic kids and other, emotional stuff and etc., which is a whole nother phenomenal story. But I was excited to be witness to that, but I've done a lot of work with horses in the past, and it's been a minute since I've actually gotten to be in the presence of one. I know their brilliance and their kindness and their emotional beings and their huge hearts. And anyway, so this guy in the picture, my client, Donna, she waited for him for 6 months, and he was being what she felt like the possibility of being mistreated. And she really wanted to get him over to her ranch, and he was local, and had been bought from somebody else, and he was now at this other place, and blah, blah, blah. But so we were walking past, and Donna was introducing me, showing me the horses and stuff. And he really, stuck out to me, and we went over and spent a little bit of time with him. And she was pointing out that, he has scars and this and these other things. And, on his skin from the wrong saddle and just blah, blah, blah. Right. And I just started feeling like the heaviness of his heart. And then, we left that space, and we went to watch the other, to watch the riders and things. And I said, can I go spend some more time with him? His name's Champ. And she said, sure. And so she was telling me some things, whatever, but I just tuned in, and I stood and put my hands on him and asked him if there was anything that he would like to share, because he was just staring out over into these hills, but not in an alert way or something. And she discovered the way she treats her horses are just unbelievable. They're so loved and cared for, and all their needs are met, and it was really a joy. But he started telling me that he felt temporary. He wasn't sure if he was there for good. Well, first he was saying, I'm grateful, I'm really grateful, I'm grateful. And I could, I felt his gratitude mixed with fear. Like he wanted to say, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. So he was hesitant to share anything other than that, because he was feeling like he didn't want to, put his foot in his mouth, put his hoof in his mouth or something. But and he said, but I said, but what else, but what's happening? Are you, how can I help you? And he asked, am I just, is this temporary? Is this treatment, is this beautiful, loving treatment of me and caretaking and nurturing, will I be sent somewhere else? And I said, no, I believe this is where you're staying, and he said, I'm, he was in his beautiful, I'm brain farting as I'm trying to retell the story, his pen, his area, and he was separate from everyone. Like all the horses have their own big space, and he wasn't taking ownership of it. And I toned in, his body was exhausted. She learned that he had a slight heart murmur recently, and he had never had his teeth cleaned and all kinds of things like this. And she has done all that for him, but that he's recovering and he's not able to work with these kids yet, or these, this clientele that she has there, and which is okay with her. But he was just sharing all these things, and and that what his body needed, but that his heart felt broken because he was so mistreated before. And he was, treated like an animal, which is funny to say, but like all animals, of course, but right now I'm speaking about horses, like how absolutely majestic and incredibly emotional and like unconditional, and just like you're kind of like a big dog. A lot of them, how some big dogs don't know that they're huge and they want to sit on your lap. That's a lot like many of these horses, but definitely his vibe was like he just wanted to be held, this big, beautiful horse, and be treated with kindness. But nobody until now had ever looked at him as anything but like something to just like ride without any kind of care for his well-being, or what was enough, like too much, and what was the limit, and make sure that and so and my client Donna, she was out of his area at the time, and I was doing all this work with his heart and his nervous system. His lips were like quivering, and some of that is normal, but like his anxiety and his like PTSD and everything was unbelievable. And so I was working with him, and he was standing completely still, allowing me to do this as he was looking out. And I was talking back to him out loud. He was telling me, obviously, he's not Mr. Ed, but, so he was speaking to me non-verbally, and I was answering him out loud. And I understood that was important for him to actually hear my voice as a, I guess human, but that, speaking from my human tone and vibration. And so I was doing that. And then she came back in, and I said, hey, I just been talking to him here and working with him a little bit. I was like, is he staying here? And she said, oh yeah, he knows. And I said, well, how does he know? And she said, well, I forgot what she said about it, but it was, she's so brilliant with her knowledge of horses and every way to communicate with them and understand their needs through their body language, or their, what they do, and their sounds and that they make, and just incredible knowledge. But also it's not like tapping into the, the higher mind of them. And so everything she said was great. I mean, what someone that works with horses would know, but I said, but have you said it to, have you told him this is your home? And she's like, well, out loud. And she said, no. And I said, can you tell him right now that this, where he's standing right now, like this is his stall. Thank you. This is his stall. This is his home. And he can get used to this level of love and nurturing and care, and that no one will ever hurt him again or take him for granted or anything, and that he is part of this place, and this is his home, and this is his tribe, if you will. And she said all those things to him, like got close and just like, gave him a hug and was telling him, honey, you're okay, like, this is it, this is how you're going to be treated. And it was, and then I felt he looked at me and like locked eyes with me, and it was the most beautiful thing. Like, I just have a hard time not crying now, but and he said, thank you. And I said, no, thank you. I'm honored to be your voice for you. And I'm absolutely honored. And his energy shifted. It was so incredible to be witness to, because I thought I had told her, well, that I don't know how long it'll take for him to kind of settle in, because he's kind of right in the middle of his healing. He's, what he's saying is like, he's beginning to relax in, but he's also still on guard, and he's still on alert, because maybe, he can't fully allow himself to fall into this place and the treatment and the food and the kindness and all the beautiful things, and and the need of, his health needs. And so because he was sort of preparing to have to go somewhere else, and wanted to still be in survival mode enough to be able to manage that for himself. Really heartbreaking. And so, then as soon as he knew that he was going to be there, he let go. It was like this releasing, and he sunk down in vibrationally, and his heart and everything. And then he showed me that his personality is he's such a sweet, 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 sweet boy. And so it's not arrogance, but he has a lot more attitude. You a little boy, hey, pride, a little bit peacocky, but just because he feels safe, and just a lot more personality to exhibit that he hasn't been allowed to just exhibit because he's been treated so poorly, just more like a machine. And so I was telling Donna, my client, all this, and I know she gets it, because obviously she's a client, but I think I understand it's hard for people to believe. But then we were standing there with him, and he exhibited, oh, okay, this is what happened. And then all of a sudden he said he'd like a carrot, and I was like, oh, do you ever give him carrots? And because she had put a snack for him in this bucket, and we had to literally leave the stall, go on the outside of the stall, and close the gate before he would approach the bucket, because he was so timid about it. And I was like, that's interesting. And so then we went back in after he ate his snack. We went back in his stall. And then he said something about carrots. And I said, do you ever give him carrots? She's like, oh, yeah. I put some carrots in that bucket sometimes. I was like, but do you ever hand them to him? And she said, no, I said, because he just told me that the people that had him, the first people, there were a lot of kids around, and young adults or whatever, and that they would taunt him with carrots and snacks, and so they would hold it in their hand, and they come here, come on, take the and as soon as he'd reach for the snack from their hand, they would punch him or slap him. And so he was very timid about taking anything out of anyone, because he was waiting to get smacked. Is this a joke? Or are you just taunting me? And he was literally showing me all this. I was seeing all this in pictures as he was telling me about it. And I said, so this is what they did, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh. And I said, can you go get a carrot? And she was super what is... So I was like, can you get him a carrot? And he had this beautiful... what is her name, darn it? Beautiful female horse next to him, sharing a stall wall. And she was so kind and compassionate with him. And she told me that her job with him is to be this grounding, compassionate force for him. And she just kind of held the space for him to feel safe. And it was just, God, it was just so beautiful. So much to say. But anyway, so Donna came back with the carrot, and she broke off a piece of it, and she held it in her hand. And I was talking to him both out loud, but also silently, non-verbally. And she was saying, it's okay, here, take the carrot, And I was saying, you're safe, you're safe, remember you're safe. And his lips were trembling. It was so sad. Like his lips were trembling and he was so scared to reach out. And so then he kind of turned his head a little bit and he made the side of his mouth, like the side of his lip touch the carrot just to see if he was about to get hit. It was so sad. And because I had told her, I was like, this is going to be healing for him. She's like, oh, because originally she had said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to feed him out of my hand because then I don't want him to expect that from, the clients that come, because that's dangerous, with the kids with special needs getting their hands. And I said, no, this isn't about anyone else but him. It will be really healing for him to experience it being safe to just receive snacks and things that he enjoys from you. It doesn't have to be from anyone else at all, but this is about him in this moment. And so he touched it, and and then he said, it's okay, it's okay. And he took it momentarily in his lips and he dropped it. Like he just freaked out and he dropped the carrot, and Donna picked it back up. And she held it in her palm again. She's like, it's okay. And we were both telling him, honey, you're safe. It's okay. This is for you. This is your snack. This is your carrot. Take it. And he took it out of her hand and he ate it. And then she broke off another piece and it took a second, but he took it. And then she tried to break this other they were big fat carrots. She tried to break it in half into two pieces and she couldn't. She's like, well, buddy, you're just going to have to crack it in half from here. And she gripped it in her fist and she held it up for him, and he took it and he stuck with it. Like he stayed with it and he broke it in half and he ate that piece, and he came right back to her hand to get the rest of it. And his tail started, his whole affect and everything started shifting right before our eyes. And then, which was beautiful enough, and leaving out a lot of details. But then, I talked to him a minute more, and then we left and we went across the way to this other horse. She's like, could you tune into this other guy? And I'm just curious what you'll say. And so that's a whole nother story, which was funny. But we were doing that, and I was talking to the other horse who's drastically different than him and had a whole different life so far, and complete opposites. But we heard this like a kick of the stall, and I thought, oh my God, who's hurting this beautiful boy? I flung around and all of us looked, and Donna was like, fascinating. She's like, he's never done that before, not once. He's establishing dominance with I know I'm brain farting, what's the filly, what is the girl horse, had come from the other side, one of her other horses, her son's horse, beautiful, looks similar, dark brown, and she was so far the dominant one. And for the first time since she's ever seen this horse, he was taking his his front leg, and smashing it into the thing to establish his dominance. And he had never done that. And he had just told me, watch, this is my personality is sweet and kind, but also I can be a little show pony-ish. I want to be, and we just looked at each other, Donna and I, and we were like, oh my God, he's doing it already. And he went and he just stayed with it. And then he walked around his stall and had to complete. Donna was like, he has just taken ownership of that stall. That's what that means. You see what he's doing here and there, that he's taking ownership of his space. And I was just like, oh, it was the most beautiful thing. And then he came and he looked over at us, and I walked over there and I just said, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. And he was looking me dead in the eyes and in the most beautiful way. And his tail was going back and forth. And she's like, that means absolute peace and joy, what he's doing. Anyway, God, well, I mean, I know that's a lot of details, but what a beautiful, so, that's a beautiful story. And the main and a huge message about this is, yes, that was a beautiful thing, but how many people, so if you own horses, or people that own horses, any other animals, yes, but horses is the topic of this video. Please be aware of how beautiful and kind and loving and emotional and very, very aware, very conscious and feeling that they are. And your regard for them and your reverence for them as this beautiful creature needs to be in place, regardless of why you have them. If they're just, at your farm, or if you're racing them, if you're doing, it doesn't matter why you have them. Please always regard their needs and be kind to them and talk to them. And a couple years ago, I learned when I was in Castaic working with this other horse, his past owner used to read to him every night while they were eating dinner out in the barn. He actually put a TV up in the barn so they could eat dinner together. And this horse loved to be read to, and I know that many horses do. And so these are not animals to just like ride, and not communicate with, not talk to, not love on, not. Please pass this message on, to anybody that you may think could use the message, because these creatures are so beautiful and majestic.